Let's talk about, I think we broke a record here waiting the longest to ask you about Justin Fields in an
Mm.
interview, but he's a guy that we both like. We've never jumped off the bandwagon. Um, what was your favorite play that Justin Fields had last year? It might have been a little thing. It might have been a big highlight reel thing. What was your favorite Justin Fields moment?
Yeah, there was a lot of them. Those some of those long runs that he broke out was just that was most amazed by those. I didn't know that.
Hmm.
When you guys know that you have this thing called game speed, right? You have
Hmm.
time speed and game speed, and he's as fast as he needs to be. So
Yeah.
that's exciting to watch. But really, just to see the growth, of him really grow in the offense through last year into the offseason, and now we're at the spot where he is now. And it's really exciting to be able to see him grow and trust, and work with the offensive staff, with his teammates, with the receivers, with the skill set, and just continuing to watch that grow. And again, we have a long way to go. We're only through the first part of training camp, and we're preparing for that first preseason game, and then working to our first game. But the progress is there, and we're excited where it is.
How do you, I mean, I know Justin's one of these guys and he's old school in a way, like, which is why I really like him because he seems like a great kid, humble, the whole thing. But the new school aspect of it is like now these guys have their own gurus. They have quarterback coaches that they work with in the off season. And I'm just curious to ask a head coach, like, how do you and Luke make sure that everybody's on the same page? Because, when you leave, you might be building great habits, but unless Luke and you know what those habits are, it can be disruptive to the process. How do you guys stay on that same page?
Yeah, I just think it's communication. You are just open, upfront, and honest as that player coach relationship. And I think that the relationship between Justin and I is huge because it's the quarterback and head coach, and as important as the offensive coordinator being on the same page with him. And we just have the same mentality that, hey, everything's up on the table. We're going to communicate that way, and it's always going to be that way. And we're never going to catch anybody off guard, and we're always going to be forthright with our communication.
Talking about communication, Ryan Poles is a guy that I got to meet while I was in Kansas City. I had broken my leg, so I was in the training room and in the weight room a lot during camp, and I got to know Ryan. And I didn't realize at the time that he was going to be headed to Lake Forest, but seeing his face a lot recently. How's the communication been with Ryan Poles, and what's it like to have an offensive lineman be a general manager?
Yeah, it's really been good. So we spend time and attention, making sure that we're always communicating and building our relationship. So we started to do things together as my wife and his wife as a couple, going out to dinner, going to various places. When we're at the owners' meetings and that type of stuff, and then really building that relationship. Him and I golfed several times this summer. We thought that was an important piece to be able to spend time outside of work, in the cart together, talking ball sometimes, talking just about life or talking about our families and just enjoying the game, of golf out there together. So that was really cool to be able to do that. And we're going to continue to do that. And your second part of your question is it's really cool to have an offensive lineman because when I was playing as a linebacker in college, the guys I hung out with were always the O lineman and D lineman. And that's
Yeah.
where I gravitated. So it's pretty cool to hang out with an ex-O lineman because he sees the game from the front, and obviously he sees it, all over, front and back. But he loves to have the trenches, and that worked out. And he believes in you win up front and you win with the offense and defensive lines. And we're building that again. It can't be built all in one year and one day and all those things. And he's working diligently to do that, and he's done an awesome job with these first two draft classes in this last free agency class. So
It's super important to remember that Patrick Mahomes isn't the only guy on the Chiefs. Creed Humphrey's playing center, Trey Smith, Joe Tooney, Orlando Brown
Yeah.
last year. These are the guys that make the thing go. So I'm glad that
It's nice to have one in a suit,
I'm glad that
Kyle.
there's a
I don't know if
300
you can
pounder
fit
in
in
a
a suit
tailored
and be a
suit.
GM. It is nice to have a GM that can break up fights in training camp. I heard Ryan Poles had to get in between a couple players.
that
These
was
things
that
happen.
was interesting because because I stand behind the offense, right? And it was
Yeah.
a long ball, right? So the ball was 25 yards down the field, and Ryan just happened to be there, luckily, and he was able to diffuse that situation pretty good. And then I went over and talked to the guys afterward, between the next periods and said, hey, if you do that again, I'm going to throw you out of practice, because that's what's going to happen in the game. And
Yeah.
we can't have that type of behavior. And the guys were good the rest of the practice, and they were executed and played with good self-control, and that's what you need to do during the game.
I used to have to take that long walk from the Peyton Center holding a D lineman's hand and go to lunch. Actually, one of our podcast co-hosts and I got kicked out of practice, and we had to make
For
that
fighting.
walk.
Yeah.